Hello, guys. Welcome to a brand new episode of The Film Angle. My name is Chris.
And I'm Alex.
Alex, I've been really, really busy in the cinema the last week. I've been catching up with loads of different things before our inevitable dry spell that's coming up. The SAG strikes are still going on, of course. Absolutely, it seems to be in full force, but that means that we're getting a lot less films coming out at the moment.
Dune!
No Dune Part 2, which is being delayed till March next year, I think, right?
Yeah, which feels, I don't know. I get it because it's going to be a difficult film to promote without any kind of actors doing the rounds. But also March just seems crazy. That's like post Oscars, so it's not going to be eligible, I believe, for the well, if it's post the Oscars, then it definitely won't be eligible for the 2022 Oscars.
It's not
2023.
Yeah,
Coffee hasn't kicked in yet.
It's not. Yeah, I'm currently sipping my first coffee too. This is a bit strange seeing how strong a presence Part 1 had at the 22 Oscars.
Yeah.
It was such a big movie that year, and obviously this is the big finale, and Denis Villeneuve is such an Oscar darling now.
Well, maybe not the finale. There's talk of a third, isn't there?
Of this book.
Oh, of this book, yes, yeah.
Gotcha, the second book, I believe, is Dune Messiah, and then I think Villeneuve kind of came out saying that he'd be kind of capping it off with a third film. Like, it's true. Like, I've heard of this doing my own research, that the books get a little bit strange, a little bit more esoteric after the second Dune Messiah book, and they kind of, there's a bit of a downward trajectory. I think, like, I don't want to spoil it because I know something already, but do you want to spoiler for anybody out there?
I don't want to spoil it because I haven't read the book.
But
so I'm very, and I haven't seen the 80s film, so I'm very much like, I have a general knowledge, like people do talk, so I do know a couple of things. But I like, if you know something I don't want to know, Chris.
Okay,
I don't want to know.
Well, when you hear it, you'd be like, "Oh, that's weird,"
Yeah.
So, I think he's probably, to keep the serious tone of the franchise that he's kind of mapping out. I think that probably is the wise decision from what I've kind of looked into about the series. And I've only read the first Frank Herbert book, which I thought was a really interesting, albeit quite a difficult read. But I mean, it's just amazing what he's done with the first film so far. When you read it, you're like, how can anybody film this? It feels so, it's so surrealist and so down in the details that it's easy for a reader to get lost. Never mind put it in a visual format. So I mean, I'll have to wait till March, but I'm happy to, because I know.
I'm going to put a bet out there now. I don't think it's going to come out in March.
You don't think it's going to come out in March?
I think
and then it'll roll over to the next year's Oscars as a contender.
Well, I think either they're banking on the Oscars being delayed because of the strikes, which is a pretty high possibility, because I guess no actors would be there, and that's how you sell the show. That's kind of a big deal.
No one to slap anybody.
Yeah, no, nobody's going to get slapped, and that doesn't sell good TV. But then also, I think they are either banking on the Oscars being moved, or they're just banking on the fact that June 2 is probably a shoe-in for most of the Oscars, like production and sound and visual effects. It doesn't matter how long it's been, like, it probably will be a mainstay for those kind of ones. And potentially, like I said, I think they'll just move it to November. I think it will just be a year's worth of delay, and they'll push it then. It's a shame. But if they just paid their writers and their actors the right amount that they're worth, then we wouldn't be in this conundrum. But if they're just gonna swing their big dick around, then sure, move June 2. It's fine. I'm sure everybody will wait it out. We don't mind.
And there's the parental advisory certificate for the episode right there. No, you're so right. I mean, like, every time I'm going to the cinema at the minute, I am constantly reminded that we are in this sort of perpetual limbo land at the moment, because I'm seeing the trailers. The trailers have just dropped off, and they are padding out the previews of these films so in such a desperate effort. I keep seeing trailers for re-releases of like Jurassic Park from Spielberg.
Mm,
I've seen the Equalizer 3 trailer about 100 times.
yeah.
And then various other. I mean, I even got like a Rise of the Foot Soldier sequel, like one of those straight to
Oh,
DVD, like British films, and they're just, you can feel that the industry is struggling to kind of keep up appearances.
yeah, yeah. There's no marketing for Aquaman 2, which is due out, I think, December. Which is not that far away, and considering the last film made $1 billion, and the state that DC is in right now, it's gonna probably
Yeah.
struggle to do that without any promotion.
I think it
But
will do well compared to previous DC films, just due to like the curiosity that it is and the drama surrounding the film. With obviously with Amber Heard over the last couple of years, and
it
The
will,
Johnny Depp
yeah.
scandal, but then again,
I've
that could have been applied to the Flash,
Yeah,
and that
I
didn't
think
really do well.
it'll do better than Blue Beetle. It might better the Flash, but yeah, I mean, with no with no talk shows or anything like that, no promotion from Jason Momoa, I think on trailers alone, probably not going to succeed in making its money back. I think again, the reason we're not seeing marketing for that, potentially going to get pushed as well. I can see it happening. So, um, yeah, we weren't intended to talk about this, but this just happens. This just happens. But
Yeah.
I think there's still some really interesting films coming out at the end of this year. Netflix have got the new David Fincher film coming out, The Killer.
Yes, with
Was
Michael
it The Killer?
Fassbender.
Yeah, yeah, which looks
Yeah.
interesting. Even though Netflix are one of the big studios that are really kind of not negotiating well at the moment, so screw them.
Hmm.
But if they want to keep making Heart of Stone, go ahead.
Yeah, but they've got you over a barrel that you'll turn up for a David Fincher movie any day of the week.
Yeah, yeah. Is Killers of Flower Moon going on to there? Oh no, that's
That's
Apple,
an
is it?
Apple original,
That's
yeah,
Apple, yeah.
yeah. But it's having obviously, I think it's like a 1 month theatrical run before it goes onto that platform.
Mm,
Um, yeah, that platform needs movies like that, though. I mean,
yeah.
I don't even know what's on Apple Plus nowadays. I know Coda was an original
Yes,
film for
yeah.
them, and I think that was like the biggest ever auction for a film for streaming that
Oh
Apple won
wow.
for that film at the time, which is
That's mad because I know
yeah.
Coda won the Oscar and it's a really nice film. I can't
But you wouldn't have
imagine
banked on that being that sort of
no,
successful.
no, 100% not. 100% not. But
It's
yeah,
so
no,
bizarre that won Best Picture still, isn't it? Really,
yeah.
I loved the movie too. I thought it's sweet, but it's just a strange Best Picture winner.
It really is. It really is. Yeah, I remember getting Apple TV just for Ted Lasso.
Oh
And
yeah,
then,
well that's
yeah,
justified.
and then I am planning at some point when I have time again to resubscribe to Apple TV for Ted Lasso again because season 3's been out and it's done. Just haven't caught up with it yet. But yeah,
Yeah, I'm the
no,
same. I loved. I don't know what's holding me back because I love season 1 and 2 so much. I even
yeah,
watched both. I watched both seasons twice, and yeah, I still haven't seen 3. I don't know. We'll catch
yeah,
up on it soon. Just too many good BFI movies to catch up on.
absolutely. Yeah, whenever I get a spare moment, I'm catching the BFI movies, which we'll obviously get onto later. But should we? Kind of. It's not really a new release though.
Hmm.
Um,
Still lingering around
yeah,
in cinemas. I don't know by the time this episode releases. I think it'll probably be gone by then. But as time of this
yeah.
recording,
Did you
there's a
see it in the
few
cinema,
screens.
Chris?
I didn't actually.
Yeah,
I
because I saw that like there were a few straggling showings available, but you can rent it now. So yeah, I did
Yeah.
the same. I rented
I watched it on from the comfort of my home, which is a really good way to watch it. Like a Friday, it's a
Mm,
really good like Friday night
yeah,
end of the working week sort of
yeah,
watch. And yeah, it's a real like this thing's a throwback, man. It is a real
yeah,
in a way that I really like. It kind of took me back to my teenage years watching those sort of golden era late 2000s comedies, but obviously with its own sort of modern twist, and having someone like Jennifer Lawrence leading
yeah.
this sort of production and obviously co-producing as well.
Did I say the name of the film?
We're going into that.
We're going into that. Yeah, we're gonna. So yeah, we're talking about No Hard Feelings, the R-rated sex comedy.
Yeah. Yeah.
which is like you said, which is like a throwback to those kind of ridiculous. I was about to say ridiculous, but like I don't know,
Like
nostalgic
over the top,
comedies
yeah.
of what feels like a bygone era. I don't know about you, but pretty early on in the pandemic, I went straight back to Will Ferrell films, and I
Oh
just
yeah.
yeah, I kind of yearn for those days of kind of like Talladega Nights and Step Brothers and Anchorman when we were just getting so
Wall to
many
wall.
kind of like big comedies um that I just don't feel like you see as much anymore.
Yeah, yeah. I think that there is a tendency for our modern comedy films to lean into the political at times, or the commentary, which kind of doesn't, which can work really, really well and is necessary at times, but it doesn't give it the space sometimes to just kind of let it be a funny movie
Mm,
with just funny characters that you kind of like. So that's kind of what threw me by surprise here. I think like last year you had Ticket to Paradise with George Clooney and Julia Roberts, and that was kind of like an attempt to kind of go back to these sort of very like sort of Vince Vaughn type of comedies, these sort of like Forgetting Sarah Marshall type kind of films that we used to watch, but it kind of failed at being a funny movie. Unfortunately, it just
mm.
didn't quite. It was halfway there, but not quite. Um, and J Lo is kind of making those sort of films too, trying to attempt that genre also. But this kind of actually does it properly,
Yes.
and it's not just an outrageous movie. The thing that kind of caught me by surprise and no hard feelings is how genuinely kind of sweet it is, and how you kind of care for the characters and the drama kind of going on, kind of sneaks up on you by the end, and there's some genuinely really heartfelt moments.
Absolutely. Yeah, I yeah, 100% agree. Kind of reminded me of those kind of films that, you would maybe sneak on in your teenage years because it had sex in the title, like Sex Drive and Sex Tape and stuff like
Yes, yeah.
that. And obviously, I love it's kind of a throwback to those comedies where like the sexual politics were a little bit like. "Uh, not great," and I think this plays with those ideas really really well.
Hmm.
Obviously, the plot of the film revolves around Jennifer Lawrence, who desperately desperately is trying to kind of make money, survive to kind of save her house, and she just had a car towed away, so she needs a car. And there's an ad, I think, on Craigslist where
Is
some
Craigslist
very
still running? I don't know. I
yeah,
thought that thing was
yeah.
done.
I feel like it's a very much an American plot device. It's always like some random thing on Craigslist.
Yeah.
I don't even know if we have Craigslist over here. But yeah, she sees this advert where some kind of very overbearing parents have decided that their very antisocial and shy son needs to be dated in quotes. Dated is very much a kind of I don't know. Well, basically,
Yeah.
they want to hire somebody to sleep with their sons to bring him out of his shell and get him ready for college. Which obviously sounds a bit weird, but it, like you said, it plays with the idea in a very funny way, and kind of actually ends up becoming this kind of sweet story. And yeah, like I think because it develops more into this idea of like, well, actually, sex isn't everything, and you need to build a relationship, and that's truly how you kind of get to the heart of
Hmm.
somebody. And also, I guess it probably helps with the fact that they don't technically sleep together.
No, no, that does help. I
Technically,
mean, like I think he's 19 years old, and he's about to, he's applying for college. So,
yeah,
I guess he's very, very much legal, but it still feels icky in a way. But I think it's supposed to. I mean, the whole thing is supposed to kind of be sort of uncomfortable and absurdist,
yeah,
and
and
obviously,
yeah.
I think it's juxtaposed by Jennifer. Jennifer Lawrence isn't trying to play a girl in her early or mid 20s. She's playing the 32-year old.
Oh, is
And
she though? Because I was going to make a comment on that in the fact that she is only I think she's only 32, 33,
32,
but I think
yeah.
they said in the film that she's 29.
Okay, that's strange. I remember being 32. I mean, and
I
from
th-
research, Dune, it was
oh.
32 as
Oh,
well.
really? Oh, okay, maybe it was a joke or something. Because I was gonna say I'm 29,
There's loads
and
of
there's a
jokes
lot of
in.
old jokes in there. All right, so
You feel a little bit triggered.
I've never been the brunt of an old joke before. All right.
You're creeping up there, buddy. Unfortunately, it's coming. But yeah, no, there's a lot of jokes about her age in this movie that that are really funny and but let's just talk about like how Jennifer Lawrence was kind of made for roles like this. She's
Yeah.
always been the Hollywood starlet. She got her Oscar early with Silver Linings Playbook, and obviously her big sort of breakout role in the Hunger Games. And she's just kind of been that sort of star that's supposed to lead these vehicles and take them to box office or Oscar glory, and then that kind of dropped off in the late 2010s, and then she kind of took a break away, and she kind of came back with Causeway last year. I thought she was absolutely incredible. Given a really, really good performance about focused on PTSD and kind of finding other people in dire situations, and then in this she just kind of does a 180 and shows how funny she is. I mean, that persona that we've always got from her in
Mm,
interviews or even just minor parts. American Hustle, she's a small part in that movie, but she's kind of the best thing about it. She's so funny and
yeah.
such a live wire, and it's about time that somebody channeled that and put it into a movie because she is great.
Yeah, it does seem that, like, in hindsight, because of, like you said, her persona, outside of being an actress on these kind of talk shows and on the red carpet,
Hmm.
she was always a really funny person. So it would make sense that, like, when she actually got to exercise those comedic chops, that, like, her comedic timing in this film is perfect. She is absolutely hilarious.
And completely
Um,
like nothing like when we, no disrespect, but whenever we watched a Jennifer Lopez movie,
I
there's,
thought you might bring her up at some point.
I've already done it, but we watched Shotgun Wedding right earlier this year,
Yes,
and it was
yeah,
kind
yeah.
of it was apart from being there with you, it was a miserable experience. So, but the thing that is wrong about how those movies just don't work is that there's a lot of vanity in the performance of Jennifer Lopez, where I've got to be really really funny and make fun of myself, but I've also got to be really really like pretty, and I've got to be
Yeah,
the most likable person in the room,
yeah.
and those two things work at odds together. What Jennifer Lawrence does really really well here is just that she is not afraid of looking stupid.
Yeah,
Um,
she's happy to be the kind of butt end of the joke, whereas Jennifer Lopez definitely felt like she wasn't in Shotgun Wedding.
no, no. She's got to wear the most glamorous outfit possible. Yeah.
Yeah, it just felt like she would never let it go so far that you were laughing at her too much. Whereas I think Jennifer Lawrence here is very happy for you to laugh at her, and but I think she's very much in the know. And
Mhm.
yeah,
And can I say that the 19-year-old Percy, he's played by Andrew Feldman. He is really really good in this too, and I think
yeah,
the key to this whole film working is the chemistry that they have, and actually, well, don't have at the beginning, but really kind of naturally develop as the film goes on. And there really
yeah,
is, like, by the end of the film, when obviously the whole plot transpires and they kind of part ways but stay together, there's a real like genuine friendship
yeah.
that is being earned by the end of the film, and it's really really sweet, almost brotherly, or sisterly. It's very very sweet. And there's some great moments. I think the She's a Man Eater musical number where
Oh yeah, yeah.
in the restaurant
It's
where
the
he
true turning point of the film, isn't it? Where you start. It's no longer like fun and games. I think,
yeah, absolutely, where she
but
kind of
like not.
sees him for what he is in the moment. Yeah.
Yeah, like there's like he's no longer just a kind of way to money. Um, yeah,
Yeah,
he's
he's somebody he's talented, and he's not just the archetypal dweeby kid who sits in his bedroom playing video games. This is somebody who has, obviously, he has
yeah,
some tricks up his sleeve, and he's a flower sort of waiting to blossom. And
yeah,
in a way she's integral to bringing that out of him, and he's
yeah,
also integral to letting her see the shallow side of herself, or the side of herself that likes to like compartmentalize everything and make everything brush over as easy as possible to avoid the real issues underneath.
Yeah, I think it's also the moment where you truly realize that the parents are 100% overreacting. Like
Yeah,
he is
yeah.
not that nervous a kid. He gets up in that restaurant, he's in a suit, and he's ready to play piano, and then he
Mhm.
meets a friend who's there, and he's not shy. He's like not that bad at all.
No,
Like
no, not at all.
I was like, probably more confidence than I had.
Yeah, 100%. Like you talk to this
And I
girl in
have a
the rest.
girlfriend. I have a fiance.
Yeah, yeah, you do have a fiance, Alex. That's right.
Oh, is he more of a
How
loser
did
than
that,
this guy?
how did that happen?
I don't know.
Oh boy, no, but it is a genuinely very very sweet film. I think also, you say the parents like are overreacting. Do you know what they really should be overreacting about? Matthew Broderick's hair.
Yeah, I said this a lot because obviously I have quite long hair now. And I was like,
No,
how
no,
is that staying in place?
no. Yours looks good, Alex. I will say yours looks good, well maintained. His was doing like this sort of like, I don't know, Doc Brown meets Sweeney Todd thing going on here. meets
Yeah, it
meets a
must have
sort of
been
like media mogul.
it was either like I'm pretty sure it was a wig.
Yeah, it
But
was very wispy.
if it wasn't a wig, then there was a lot of hairspray involved for it to stay that stiff.
It was a little bit distracting and when in those scenes when they do appear.
I'm glad I'm not the only one because I kept saying to Emma, I was just like, how does he keep his hair like that? She's like, hairspray. I was like, it doesn't work on mine. We got very similar length hair.
Well, you want it to look like that?
I just I'd rather it didn't like go on my face all the time.
Yeah, that's true. Well, that's pretty. It's very nice. That's what the hairbands are for. I've seen you wear the hairband. Just wear that.
Yeah. I'm man bunning now. Yeah,
Oh right, okay. We've
I'm
got to
man.
that stage now.
Yeah, I
Right?
man bun a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah. We had our Qui-Gon Jinn era.
Yep.
I think we're still in that. Really?
Yeah, I think it's a bit Qui-Gon. There's no
Yeah.
doubt. There's still a bit Qui-Gon.
Not bad. Not bad.
I think what you meant was it was Obi-Wan, like Revenge of the Sith.
No,
Obi-Wan.
that was a long time ago. I think you've passed that.
Yeah, and now it's Qui-Gon in with the man bun.
Yeah.
Anyway, we've divulged. We've gone off track. We've gone.
But like what comes to, I was really excited about this film early this year, knowing that Jennifer Lawrence would be leading this vehicle and it's an absurdist comedy. But the reviews came out, well before we saw the film, and there was sort of like a mixed response to it. It was just kind of given the shrug. But I think it's so much better than that. I really, really think if you go into this thing expecting just like a really good old school throwback, well, old school in terms of how we grew up, comedy, I think you're going to have a really, really good time here. I think it's going to surprise you. And I was kind of upset for the thing to end. I got so attached to these characters that, yeah, I thought it was a really good surprise and one of the best comedies of this year, no doubt.
Agreed. I laughed a lot, and you're right. I sat down. I watched this on I think I watched it on a Sunday night, but it was a long weekend, so like you could, it was kind of a Saturday night, and not technically, but kind of because I was off the next day. And yeah, I remember just me and Em sitting down, watching this comedy film, and I laughed a lot through it. So did she. We both came out really, really enjoying it, and yeah, do you know what? It felt refreshing. I felt like I hadn't laughed at like a full blown comedy film like that since maybe Booksmart. Like I was trying to wrap my brain. There might have been some since, but that's the last one I can remember where I truly was like just laughing the whole way through. So there might have been some, but that was the only one that sprung to mind.
I know we wanted to keep this sort of structured. I did see a film the other day that I laughed at more than No Hard Feelings.
Go on.
We could talk about it later on in another episode, but I just came out of seeing this thing and I loved it to heck. I thought it was Theatre Camp.
Oh yes, you saw Theatre Camp. That's right. That's
a movie specifically designed and created for yours truly.
Yeah, you're a theatre kid at heart, aren't you?
Yeah, and it gets
you love
so
cats.
Right. There is Cats references. I don't know. Wait. I do not love Cats. Directed by Tom Hooper. It started COVID.
It did.
It's been confirmed.
Nothing has been the same since.
It's been confirmed. It started COVID, and it's the reason why cinema was lost to us all. So I've seen the stage production. I think it's a lot of fun. I think it
Mhm.
belongs there and doesn't belong anywhere else on your screens. But yeah, no, Theatre Camp was a really, really good fun ride. It was directed by Molly Gordon. He also stars in it, and she was coincidentally in Booksmart as well, and she's in the show The Bear on Disney Plus at the minute. So she's really big and up and coming. And it was co-directed by Nick Lieberman also, and it's a really, really fun movie about it's kind of done in a mockumentary style, not like it's hard on the like it's trying to stick to be a convincing documentary. It's more like The Office, where it's a bit more loose. It's kind of floating between the fictional narrative and also being a mockumentary at the same time. It's just pretty easy to follow, but it's a really good fun movie. It's about trying to raise the funds to keep a theater camp going while it's struggling, while its owner's in a coma, and all these like they're putting on a production during the summer, and it's really, really sweet. It's laugh a minute. Really, really great performances for you. I mean, I might wait till you catch up with it someday that we can talk about it again, because I think you're gonna have a really good time with it too. I mean, me and Lauren were laughing constantly for the whole thing, and that's really hard. That's really hard for them.
Yeah, I do want to catch up with it. I saw that it's in the States, it's streaming on Hulu in a couple of weeks. So
Okay,
potentially
so
that means Disney
Disney Plus,
Plus.
yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, no, I will definitely catch up with it. So and but you say funnier than No Hard Feelings.
Well, I mean, No Hard Feelings is great and sweet. I chuckled. I chuckled constantly at No Hard Feelings, and I really, really enjoyed it. The theater camp, perhaps because I find it a little bit more relatable, I got belly laughs. I got
Yeah.
proper belly laughs where I saw myself mirrored in a lot of characters, a lot of the extroverts out there and everything. So I think it does in a really sweet way. And again, it's also a story that creeps up on you and has a really has a heart to it and is really well thought out, especially when I went into this thing thinking it was probably going to be mid,
Yeah.
like a okay movie. I was actually quite unsure about going to the cinema to see it and just waiting till it was on streaming. But no, I don't regret it. I think it's one of the most fun things I've seen this summer.
There you go. There you go.
So yeah, I'll not divulge into
A
the
little
plot, but
unplanned divulsion from Chris there.
yeah,
Lovely.
yeah.
We fit another review into this jam-packed episode.
Well, that's it. But I couldn't agree with you on the being the funniest film I've seen in a long time, because I had it on the tip of my tongue.
You were like, I've
But
seen
it
a
is
funny
very
one
good.
2 days ago.
I've seen one better than you. No, I predict though that you will prefer No Hard Feelings to Theater Camp. I think that's just where we sort of differ a little bit, but that's
Yeah.
completely subjective thing, and that's what makes the world interesting and not a yes fest. So yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
If you're like a theater, like if you were that annoying kid in school that sang "Oh What a Beautiful Morning" and everybody looked at you and wanted you to shut up, this is the movie for you. So go ahead.
Gotcha. I was in I was in drama productions at school. So I did Grease. I was in Oliver Twist.
Well, it's your defining. Oh,
Yeah.
I knew you were in Grease. I didn't know about Oliver Twist.
Yeah, I was in Oliver Twist. I played the old man who takes in Oliver at the end.
With Fagin.
No. The like the nice old man.
Oh, yes, of course.
Who
Yes.
like adopts him at the end. Which was funny because my brother played Oliver. So.
Oh, that's kind of strange.
There you go.
Was it? He was the little one. You were the big one.
Yeah. And then I did do theatre studies in A levels. But yeah, but I never. I guess didn't keep up the acting thing after secondary school. So
It's like as soon as you leave secondary school, like where you're sort of it's your epicenter, and you've got control in this world. Your confidence just takes a cliff dive.
yeah. Oh, I lie. I have a very small part in Mickey H, the short film directed by Lee Markham and Alfie Martin. So
I've seen, that's the one I've seen, right?
That is the one you've seen. I went full blown theatre mode there as well, so you can find that online.
You're really good. Yeah. You're playing an Australian news reporter.
I don't think it was Australian.
Well, that's the vibe it gave off.
I think you're taking that away from my very strange accent. Okay,
it was character work. I thought you were doing a really, really good character study on what it was like to be a Melbourne-born, know,
I was
news
trying to
reporter.
I was trying to channel like Mark Kermode on like loads of cocaine. So that was
Oh well,
that's what
then
I
you
was channeling.
then you completely failed. I'm so sorry.
Fair enough. Fair enough. I feel like maybe we finished No Hard Feelings because we're just going on tangents here. So shall we get into our BFI film of the week?
For sure.
So, this week's film from our kind of blind spot list of the Sight and Sound's greatest films of all time list is, I believe, our first documentary and our first Agnès Varda film on the list called Gleaners and I.
Mhm.
Now, not my first Agnès Varda film, though. I don't know about you, Chris. Is this your first kind of.
This is admittedly my first, and I'm a little bit frustrated that it is my first because not only is she so revered in the industry as a pivotal and important filmmaker, but also that she is sort of more renowned, apart from Faces Places, obviously, and some of her various work. She's more renowned for her fictional narrative work. And it seems like a strange entry point to start with a documentary for Varda, despite how much I enjoyed it and the personality, but perhaps maybe I would have liked to have seen more of her films before jumping into this one.
Fair enough. I've only seen two other films. I've seen so one documentary which was Faces Places, which I bloody love, and everybody should see it, and you should definitely see it, Chris,
Hmm.
especially if you love this film because it's kind of similar in a way. And then I don't really know how to pronounce it, Labona.
Okay, the what?
Lobona.
The what? Sorry.
I know that isn't how you pronounce Lobona. We don't need to get into how I can't speak French.
Yeah,
We've gone over
yeah.
that a few times, but which is one of her
Oh my goodness.
fictitious film, which was pretty good. Which I remember enjoying it, but I don't remember it nearly as well as I remember Faces Places.
Hmm.
Um,
Yeah,
so for
the
for
boner wasn't up
me,
there.
Labona wasn't up there. Um, but so for me, I almost see Varda as more of a documentarian just because of what I've seen
Being exposed
prior.
to. Yeah,
But yeah, I love this film. I thought I was blown away by it.
I
Loved it.
completely. Yeah, I'm on board with you as well. I think this was a real sort of special little playful treat. But it's funny that you can balance, you know, playful and fun and in looking at a subject from a childlike sort of perspective, but also touching on the serious issues and sort of the desperation in sort of these individuals at the same time. It balances both of those tones really really well, and as it meanders in ways that are actually quite spontaneous and only aid in helping the whole film kind of come together. So it's very very instinctual. Like it's like Varda on her feet, thinking as she goes. She has this core
Yes.
structure of a film, but she's not afraid to veer off the path, be spontaneous, and add in extra sort of elements that kind of catch you by surprise, both narratively and formatively. They kind of it kind of goes around the place, but never loses sight of its objective, and it's very entertaining to watch too.
Yeah, it almost feels like she had like the bare bones of like an idea as to what she wanted to document, and then just kind of went wherever the story took her. And obviously, what she's documenting here are gleaners, which are kind of, I guess, we look at what gleaning is within kind of French society, and then like how gleaning can be seen in other forms as well, rather than just kind of its
Hmm.
kind of basic form, which was very much after a harvest. Uh, Gleaners would go in and kind of pick up the potatoes or the turnips that had kind of been left behind. And gleaning had become this thing where it was this idea of kind of picking up the straggly ends, I guess. Is
Yeah.
is that how you saw it? And then we kind of moved from that kind of old fashioned idea of like going into into a farm after a harvest to pick up the scraps, to kind of seeing like people on the street picking up scraps,
Hmm.
to to kind of like how artists pick up scraps. And then like
Hmm.
you said, like there's these really spontaneous moments in the film. One of my favorite moments in particular, and I think this kind of it just so I just so joyous a moment, I think, is when Varda realizes that at one point during filming she's left her camera on, and the and it's just pointing towards the ground,
Yeah.
and the lens cap is just kind of like flinging in and out of frame, and she just says, "Oh, I just thought it was so funny," and she puts like some
This
kind of
jazzy sort of
jazz
dance
music to it,
music.
and it looks like the lens. Like she says, "Oh, it's like the lens cap is like dancing to jazz." I just thought like how brilliant an idea of like this fun little moment, which just kind of Vada again is just like a charming lady. And I
Mhm.
hate to call her just like a cute old lady, but she is, all right. But she's more than that. But this moment not only is just like this joyful bit of charm, it is also a way of showing like in this film, even something that many people might have thought was, just like a, oh, damn it, I filmed that, I'll delete that. No, no, no. I'm going to turn this into a piece of the film
Yeah,
and
it's quite
therefore just
inspiring, yeah.
reinforce this idea of like gleaning. She is herself a gleaner. She's taken this scrappy bit of filming and turning it into this kind of joyous moment in the film. I don't know, just those little moments, and there are
Yeah.
a lot of those little moments, and I think it's the moments with Varda in particular which kind of make that hit home, where she's just kind of like filming her hands and describing like how she is kind of like seeing herself differently as she ages, and there's this beautiful moment. And again, I don't know why it's beautiful, where she's just like filming herself pretending to grab trucks, like just in the kind of
Yes, like we
perspective.
I used to do that as a kid.
Yeah, I don't know. I think I think she's really good at number one, getting to the heart of the people she's documenting, but then kind of sprucing her own little methods of madness, but like kind of they're just so charming in between. And I don't
Mhm.
know, you can see why the subjects that she's talking to feel so happy to kind of open up to her. She's almost like an old French Louis Theroux, like you just want to talk to her. You know
Yeah.
what I mean?
Yeah, I think it's that insistence that she's really like a deep delver, isn't she? That she wants to get the full scope of the story, and she will just go in somewhere, get all the contacts, and form those connections before filming them. She's not there to do the basic interview, and it's something way more organic at play. And you're so right. I mean, that moment earlier on when she in the film where she's just driving and she's like looking at her hands, and she said, "Oh, I'm reminded my hands looking this way. I can't remember when they didn't look like that in my youth. I'm reminded that death is near." And then she
Yeah.
just kind of like she knows she's meandering, and she just says, "Never mind, no more about that for now. I will come, but we'll come back to that later."
Yeah.
Um, it's really it's quite relatable and insightful, and it's kind of you're somebody who's not afraid to kind of let their internal feelings kind of outside those sort of silly thoughts that we kind of have that aren't so silly. They're quite insightful, and I think you're right. That's how she manages to connect with all her subjects, and that's what's so great about this film too. She's not just focusing on the Gleaners. She's not making this just about the people who live on the fringe of society. We're getting the whole scope of people from we got a 2-star Michelin chef who gleans to this day. We get insight from the people who own the vineyards or own the farms, or people way up who to teach in Paris. We get so many different types of perspectives on how gleaning has sort of changed. And yeah, you're right. It is a really really fascinating subject. I learned a lot from this. I think it's really fascinating that she uses a video camcorder, which from modern standards, a lot of people would turn a nose at and up at and say it's the most boring sort of format. It doesn't create an interesting image. She manages to really find a real way to use this to her maximum ability, and she praises it and says it's so amazing that I can have this nowadays and take this anywhere. And it's just a real infectious way of looking at the world that she
Yeah,
has.
because it's filmed also from like 1999 into 2000 and then released in
Yes.
2000. So it is on that kind of like fringe of technology and, like you said, having a handheld camera and how that changes things. I also love as well, like so many different subjects within the film. And yet she tries her best not to be judgmental. And I think 99% non judgmental at all, apart from maybe one moment where I think like one of the vineyard owners kind of doesn't want gleaning any like doesn't like people kind of gleaning his crops. And I think there's a question asked. I can't remember the exact question. And
Mhm.
then later she says like seems silly that people would, it just seems cruel that you wouldn't like allow people just to like kind of pick the bits that you're just going to
Yeah.
throw away anyway or something like that. She doesn't say this to him, but yeah, I think there's like one moment you're like, oh, you've kind of you stepped over that kind of line that maybe you were trying to not cross, but like it makes it even more powerful that it's like this moment of less restraint. You know what I mean?
And there's also kind of a likable naivety to her as well when she interviews people, because I felt that perhaps, I'm not going to pick a particular, individual, but there are some individuals who she interviews here who, happily tell their portion of the story, where you sort of or kind of think, they're sort of an unreliable narrator sometimes. They
Yes.
tell their own life stories, and they seem sort of exaggerated stories that are, we have this. Well, again, I said I wouldn't individualize, but we had this guy who's kind of who's a street wanderer in Paris. He's known for wearing rubber boots, and goes for the trash of Paris, and kind of finds food and meals from there. He kind of tells us that, I have a full time job, and I'm you kind of question the narratives of these people,
Hmm.
but she completely acknowledges them as if they're telling the entire truth the whole time, which is just a really really nice way of looking at it, and kind of an objective way of us watching the film, that we can get our own opinions from this situation too. Here are the heroes and the villains. I think it's just kind of a societal thing overall, and I think we're all
Mm.
sort of people are just all sort of victims, a part of it. It's all kind of feeds into that sort of capital society of that the scraps falling from the table, but yeah, and it gets into the fundamentals of the law, like what are the rights of gleaning nowadays, should and also the waste culture that we have, the fact
Mm.
that gleaning back in the olden days, where the scraps were being picked up from fields because most of the machinery struggled to be efficient enough to pick it all up. Nowadays, machines don't have that problem. The problem is more now the commercial value of fruits and vegetables, where if they're over a certain amount of inches or they're abnormal shape, they're not commercial in value, and they have to be dumped back in the field. But they don't advertise this. It's up to the gleaners to be on the ball to find this, and that's kind of the moral quandary there. So it's
Yeah.
it's really really fascinating, and it sounds like it sounds like a bit of a basic topic, or something that, why are we choosing this to talk about?
Yeah.
But
Like, why would I choose to? Why do I want to watch a documentary about
yeah,
this?
yeah, and I would not let that deter you,
No.
despite whatever your experience is of watching film in general. This is very, very entertaining, and moves very, very well, and is easy for anybody to understand, and it's very, you're having an insight into people, into a lifestyle you're not really used to. So for an 80-minute documentary film, I'd say anybody pick this one up, because it
Mm.
was a real treat for me, and I instantly want to catch up with Varda, and not just her fictional work, but watch all her documentaries. I know Faces Places is really, really well regarded. I think her last film, wasn't it 2017, before she passed away in
Hmm.
2019. So yeah,
No, no.
she's such.
Her last one was uh, it was like Varda by Agnes or Agnes
Oh
by
yes,
by
sorry, you're.
Varda. That was her. And again, she's one of those directors. Like ever since Faces Places and now this, and I guess Wabona. Um, I've wanted to watch more, and we do have at least one more on this list, which is good.
Great,
Um,
fantastic.
but I feel like I feel like when we maybe finish this list, maybe we should deep dive into a few more of her films. I'd be really interested to watch some more.
Oh, absolutely, because she is undoubtedly, from the small insight that I've got in this film of her, is a really unique and sort of infectious personality. He obviously has, such a really great insight into people, and of all types and all backgrounds. So yeah, I imagine that, I'd like to see her view on all different types of subject matter. So yeah,
Hmm.
yeah, there's a lot to learn from a person like that, I feel.
Yeah.
um
I
yeah.
feel like this is her first time on the list as well. I think.
Yes. Oh, I mean, yeah, being voted over the decades.
I
Yeah,
think so.
I think
Potentially.
it's.
I might be wrong in that, but
Yeah, I think it's. I don't know, whatever list. I think it's officially regarded as the number 8 in best documentaries of all time, the 8th greatest.
Mm.
So I don't know if we've got more. If that's just a general sort of list, or is this there are more documentaries to sort of come in the BFI list? I know there are a couple,
Yeah.
but no, this is fantastic. I don't know.
Worthy, I think. I think so. Worthy of being on the list.
I think worthy. I think it's a real timestamp in the world too. I think also having that period of kind of transitioning from 99 over to the new millennium, and it comments on that too. And
mm,
there are people in poverty in this film, some people who live in caravans or on the border of being homeless, who kind of comment on, oh, 2000 is just around the corner and I've got nothing to sort of show for it, and and where's the modern times that we were promised.
yeah.
There's a lot to sort of socially kind of unpack that kind of speak to that crossover in a milestone in time. So
Yeah.
I think it's significant for that as well.
Yeah. And I think really inspirational as well. Like, I feel like in a world where we get so many documentaries from people like Netflix, just seeing someone in this style, which feels like anybody, like, and
Anyone,
I
yeah,
realize not anybody could make it because this is very much
technically, in a technical way,
but
yeah.
like the fact that she's, if you have the willingness to listen to people, and you have a cam recorder, and you can just kind of go and just listen to people's stories, and kind of thread something between them. I don't know, it just made me feel like, oh man, I remember when I used to just walk around with a camera. I was never like talking to people on it or anything like that, but you just think like, I, you know it feels like anybody could have made this, but like Agnès Varda made it, and then she really because she puts herself in it and puts so much of herself in it. I think it makes it really special. But yeah, it just made me think like, oh man, I could make a film like this
Mhm.
potentially. And I'm
I,
not that. That's not to take it away from her, but it's just like inspiring. I don't know. I just found it very inspiring.
I think the documentaries that really really work, and the ones that I've always connected to, are the ones that come from a place of genuine interest in the subject matter and a real deep empathy. I think you can't really go to an intellectual mindset when making a documentary, because yeah, it depends on the subject matter. But when it's about people, I think you really really need to kind of have a really deep understanding of how these people live, or real, at least a really deep empathy for how they live, and
And
yeah,
a willingness to like not fit the footage into your already kind of idea of a
yeah.
story. And I think that,
And
yeah,
that's probably very very tempting. I imagine that's really really difficult to
mm,
do, because I imagine everybody making a documentary has an idea of what they want to make, right? Unless they're really really an experimental and genius filmmaker. But yeah, it's pretty inspiring to see Varda kind of not be afraid to go off the beaten track and take a stroll down this lane and that lane. It kind of reminded me a little bit of Kirsten Johnson's film Camera Person, another film I
mm,
really love, where
yeah,
it just that real attention to detail and that real willingness to understand the person in front of the camera, and also how it relates to the person behind the camera too. So
yeah,
yeah, it's great. I mean, it's a subgenre that it's just as good as any sort of narrative film, and as powerful as a narrative film. If there's enough willingness and intent behind it, and she's just, yeah, a genius. I can't wait to catch up on her work.
yeah. And surprisingly cozy. Just surprisingly cozy.
Surprisingly cozy. Yeah. I remember you telling me that before going into it, but there is this sort of like relaxed atmosphere to it. There is no
Mm,
sort of like, it's not overdone. There's not a lot of there is score, but the score is quite delicate and gentle and experimental
mm,
too, and very homemade. It's got this very homemade quality about it, and there's no sort of antagonistic sort of relationships that she has with, describe against Louis Theroux, who likes to sort of stick the needle in a little bit just to
yeah,
kind of
it's
see how
more.
it can.
He
She's
kind of
more.
goes to the fringes of society to shock, doesn't he? And
Mhm.
nothing against it. I love Louis Theroux, but
Oh, same, yeah,
yeah, this doesn't feel like it was going to the fringes of society to shock. It was just to kind of observe and just pure intrigue.
yeah. I mean, there's potentially. I mean, she's potentially putting herself in harm's way. in moments, because she is dealing with, kind of maybe upset, angry communities. There's a point in the film where she wants to get to the bottom of a vandalism situation that happens at a supermarket,
Oh yeah,
and she goes to, she befriends and ends up siding with the kids who were sort of prosecuted for doing a little bit of vandalism to the dumpsters at the
yeah.
supermarket. So
But also because they were rummaging through bins, weren't they? And then the supermarket decided to
yes,
just douse the bins in bleach.
yeah.
But there you go,
Yeah, but the
capitalism.
guy said, "Oh, we did enough. All we did was like smash a few windows and like and
Yeah,
empty the dumpsters. It's nothing big." But yeah, it's quite interesting to see when you watch it, to see where you fall on that. And I think maybe perhaps both parties are wrong in that instance.
yeah.
But
It doesn't help that the kind of one of the, I don't know if it was a lawyer or a judge, I can't remember. Is like when she's like talking about it, she's like standing next to the bin, just in like very formal attire, like this is the law. You're like,
yeah,
mm.
yeah, and it's quite interesting because she's sort of like trying to be the face of reason here by saying, "Oh, um, obviously I don't want to do this to kids. And we're not here to prosecute. We're here to teach and learn." And like, and
Mm.
then we hear in hindsight that she was like screaming at one point or something at court.
Yeah, yeah.
So it's really, really interesting. That I think that's kind of a thing that stuck with me in this film is the unreliable narrator stuff, and how that's a very human quality in people. And I find that fascinating, and it's make your own mind up. And Agnes doesn't really like try to force that position or force us to think a certain way. We just kind of are watching the lives of these people and the system and a history of something that we didn't really know much about. And I'm actually really glad I know about it now. I
Yeah,
can,
yeah.
yeah.
I didn't know what a gleaner was, and now I do.
I didn't know what a gleaner was. Yeah.
And now you, fair listener, also know.
We must all organize a gleaning day.
Let's go glean.
Yeah. Yeah. Very, very good. Very, very good.
So, I think we shall wrap it up there. I feel like I meander a lot in the closing minutes of this show, so I'm gonna try to be very quick, uh,
Succinct.
succinct. Follow us on Instagram. Follow us on TikTok at the Film Angle. Tell all your friends and family about us. Review us where you can. It all helps kind of spread the word, and we love doing it. So it's always good to know when we see more people coming in and engaging and listening. So yeah, thank you very much, everyone.
Absolutely. Yeah, it really does sort of drive us forward, and more people listening to it, it's like, oh, that's great. Like, I mean, what we're doing is good and worth listening to. So no, but even if not, we'd still be here every week talking movies. So I'm loving
Absolutely. Love it.
it.
Love it. Love it. Love it. Cool. Well, that has been the Film Angle for this week. I'm Alex.
And I'm Chris.
Au revoir.
Au revoir.
Is that French?
Oui.
Au revoir.